Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly, and today I'm going to show you how to power up your PowerPoint. In this live stream, we're going to be looking at all the different ways that we can make games. We're going to be looking at how to take PowerPoint and make games that we can use in the classroom. And I figured out how to do this one day when I was looking for fun things to do with my students, and I wasn't able to find all the things I wanted to do using resources I had on the computer. So I started searching some games using like Slides Carnival or Slides Mania. And when I downloaded those templates, they weren't what I was expecting. They were very much just moving things around manually. So I took it upon myself and kind of started figuring out how to make some games using all the different features that PowerPoint can give you. So to get started, I'm going to show you a couple PowerPoint games I've been working on or have completed and have used in the classroom. Now, here is my screen. This is my Pokemon Go adaptation using PowerPoint. So I'm going to go in and make sure. Perfect. I'm going to show it again. So as I said before, here is the screen that looks like your screen when you're playing Pokemon Go on your phone. And just like in Pokemon Go, Pokemon appear on there, and you get to pick which ones you want to catch. So if I click here, as I said, there's no questions yet. This is a template for me to use in multiple ways once I am ready to use it in the classroom. But when a student picks the incorrect answer, it still throws the ball, but the Pokemon escapes and they have to try again. So every incorrect answer will have that same reaction. Only when they choose the correct answer will they catch the Pokemon. And when you click return to map, as you can see, the Pokemon's gone because we caught it. So if you click another one, the only one we have is right here, it's the same thing. Incorrect answers to the question, the Pokemon will escape. Correct answers to the question, the Pokemon is caught. The next PowerPoint I wanted to show you is Battleship. And I tried to create this Battleship as similar to the board game as possible. So there are two screens that are the boards, and the red squares are showing the ships and the different blocks where hits would be. For now, I only have one game board, but when I present this in class for my students, there would be two. When I go, there are 100 squares labeled A1 through J10. And what I've done is create questions for each team that have that A1 through J10. So unique questions for 100 squares. And the students would work as teams, getting questions on the card and bring them up when they've solved them. If they get it correct, they get to call that number and see if it's a hit. So if a student comes up and gives me the card with the correct answer for H4, they get to click it. It disappears, but as you can see, it is a miss. I also took some inspiration from other online versions of Battleship. My inspiration being the Battleship version that was on Webkins when I was a kid. And something I liked from that was there were power-ups that every so often, every couple moves you could use. But I wanted to make that with questions that the students could answer. So they would be more difficult questions, but they would be able to get a bonus power-up. So I started working on a big shot cannon. So when a student comes up with an orange question answered, a more difficult question, we would click on this and all of these orange squares appear. And with these orange squares, when I hover over them, you can see the dotted green outline around them. When a student is able to use the big shot cannon, they get to delete 4 squares at once. So the student could hover over A1, B1, A2, and B2, click it, and you can see that there's 2 hits and 2 misses. Once they've answered that question, I click this X, and those larger squares go away, and it's back to clearing 1 square at a time. The next PowerPoint I'm going to show you is the one that we are actually going to be able to make today. And I've named it Pixel Puzzle. And this is one that I have actually used in the classroom, and my students enjoy it a lot. So I have the rules on a slide for them. It just tells them how to play. They're split into 2 teams. Each team is trying to solve their puzzle. I use it just with worksheets. So when they finish a question on their worksheet, they raise their hand. I come around. If they get a star, they get to go up to my smartboard and click 1 square on the other team's side to delete it. Then they keep working on questions, and the first team to finish their puzzle wins. So this is what the actual screen that the students will be working with looks like. And we have team 1 and team 2, and it's very similar to the battleship game where when you click on a square, it disappears as you click on it. And all we are using for any of these PowerPoints that I showed you are the tools up at the top. So now we are going to move into the basics of how to use PowerPoint to create games. So if you would like to follow along, go ahead and open up a PowerPoint, a new PowerPoint. This needs to be done on the desktop version. The online version doesn't have all of the tools that is needed to make these games. So here we have my blank PowerPoint, and for my first slide, I'm just going to go into my layout and change it from title slide to blank because I'm going to be pasting and inserting things and I don't need the text box to be in my way. So the first thing we're going to use is the zoom feature, and the zoom feature can be found in the insert tab. And when you come here, it says zoom. When you click on it, or hover over it, it says, Zoom allows you to present your content creatively in a non-linear way. Create an interactive table of contents with summary zoom, or jump to specific slides or sections with slide zoom and section zoom. So what that means is there are 3 different ones, but we're going to be using slide zoom. So we're going to actually add a second slide. And it doesn't matter what the layout is right now. I chose title and content, but you can do whatever, and you can just insert something on there. I'm going to go to my shapes, and I'm going to put a smiley face. I'm going to make my smiley face orange, and now I'm going to go back to slide 1. So when I go to slide 1, I can go to insert, zoom, and I'm going to click slide zoom. I can choose any slide that I have in my slide deck. So I'm going to pick slide 2 and insert slide 2. The next thing that I'm going to do is show you what the zoom does. As the little blurb under it said, it allows you to go from one slide to another. It also allows you to just see that slide on another slide. So I've used it. This is what it looks like when it's open. I used the zoom feature for Battleship. Underneath the squares is a zoom of slide 3. And that's how the hits and misses show on that screen. And that way, instead of having to go here and change the table every time you want to play, you can do it on the separate slides. I also used it for Pixel Puzzle. The same thing right here that I'm clicking on is a zoom of slide 5, and Team 2's is a zoom of slide 4. And that way, instead of having to move the squares and possibly mess something up on the game board, you can go to each picture and change the squares there. The next feature we're going to look at is animation. The animation feature is one of the most important features when creating a game because you want to be able to have things move around on the screen without the mouse there or having to touch it at all. So we're going to go to the Animations tab, and there's a couple different ways that the animations work. You can create an entrance. Anything that is considered an entrance is in green. Then you have emphasis. All of the emphasis are in yellow, and the exits are in red. You can also add a motion path. So if I want this smiley face to enter the screen by flying in from the left, I'm going to click Fly In. I'm going to go to where it says Effects Options, and that gives you the different directions for this specific effect. So I'm going to click left, and it slides right in. The next thing I wanted to do after it's come in is I want it to do a 360 degree turn. So this is really important when you are working with animation. After you've put one animation in, you can't just click up here to do another animation. It will replace the animation you just added. You have to go to Add Animation, and that will be the second animation. So I'm going to click Spin, and right away it does a 360, but I wanted to do it counterclockwise. So I'm going to click counterclockwise, and now it does a 360 counterclockwise. And the final animation is I want it to exit going off the screen at the bottom. So I'm going to go to Add Animation. I'm going to go to Fly Out, and the effect option is already what I want it to do. I want it to fly out from the bottom. So when I go to present my PowerPoint, I click, and each of my animations happens with a click. It flies in, click again, it spins, click again, it disappears. But I want it to do all of that without me having to do anything. So if you go to Animation Panel, it gives you your 3 animations. And if you click the down arrow, it gives you more options. So right now you'll see that it's on start on click, which means when I click, it will do the animation. But if I want it to start automatically when the slide is switched to this slide, I'm going to click Start with Previous. And when I click Start with Previous, we go to the slideshow. It slides in without me having to click anything. If I want it to do a 360 turn counterclockwise without having to touch it, but I want it to do it after it's entered and is in the middle of the slide, I'm going to go to the animation, the emphasis spin, and click the down arrow and choose Start After Previous. Now when I run my PowerPoint, it flies in, then it spins, and I still need to click because I didn't fix that animation yet, but I click and it disappears. If I add it here, if I click here, I want it to start after it spins to disappear. But I now want it to wait 3 seconds before the smiley face comes in. So instead of doing with previous, you're going to have it on with previous, go to timing, and you can choose a delay. So my delay is going to be, we'll do 2 seconds for a delay. And now, when I start the slideshow, I wait 2 seconds, and it does everything I need to do without having to use my hands and clicking the mouse. The next thing that we're going to learn on to add to that animation is the trigger animation. So the trigger animation causes a chain reaction. So when something is clicked, you can have a whole series of actions to happen after a specific object or text box is clicked. A good example of that would be the Pokemon Go. When you open the slide with a Pokemon on it, there are things that already appear, but there is paths of motions and animations that happen anytime I click on one of these balls. So when I click on this first ball, without having to do anything, it moves, it catches the Pokemon, the sparkles appear, and then it escapes and the ball disappears. All of that, when you go and look at the animation panel, all of it is under the trigger for choice A ball, which means when I click choice A ball, all of this happens. And all of this is happening with previous, after previous. The only thing is once I click that, all of this happens one after the other. The trigger tool, it doesn't always have to be one thing after another. It could just be one. And that's what we see with Battleship and Pixel Puzzle. We've used that trigger for all of the squares. So when we go to the animation panel for that, you'll see that the trigger of rectangle 108, which is one of these rectangles, there's so many. I do like to go in and name them, but I did do that with this slide. So this is the one I clicked is rectangle 262. So it says when rectangle 262 is clicked, then rectangle 262 will disappear. And we can see that when we open it, click on rectangle 262, it disappears. So let me show you how we can do that. So I'm going to add animation, and for this I'm going to actually change the color. So I'm going to click change color, effect options. Right now it's orange. I want to change the color. Let's change it to purple. But then I'm going to go up here to trigger. And if I click, we're actually going to go back and add text box. We'll have it spin and then give, so if it is the right answer, we're going to have it change color. If it is the wrong answer, we're going to have it disappear. So now we have all those animations in there. We just have to change them. So we're going to go to animations. We're already on the smiley face changing color, but we're going to do trigger on click of, and we're going to click text box 4 because this over here is text box 4. I'm going to color the text box just to make it a little easier for us to see when I click on it, and we'll make it orange. And then for the wrong answer, we'll do the same thing, make that text box orange, and we're going to go to smiley face, disappear, but we're going to do that triggered on the click of text box 5, which is wrong answer. So now when we press the presentation button, it slides in, it does its 360, and now it's sitting there until we choose the answer. If it's right, it changes color, but if we click wrong, it disappears. There are 2 more things we're going to talk about before we can get started on our own PowerPoint. These are 2 just quick little things to look at. So to do this, the first one we're going to look at is inserting a link. And we know how to insert links, copy and paste them, but PowerPoint's cool because you can insert a link to another slide. So that's something you can see on Pokemon Go. I have my map here, and I have the trigger event there too. But if I slide my mouse over either of the Pokemon that are there, you're going to see that it says control click to follow the link. And the link is to the slide with that Pokemon on it. So instead of having to click back and forth trying to get to the right thing, it's creating a little map and a shortcut to go to it. So when I click on the Bulbasaur, it brings me to that slide. There's no clicking through, going to the wrong slide. This, when I click on it on the map, it will automatically bring me to the slide I want it to. So let's see how that works. I'm going to, for this, insert a new slide, and I'm going to call this slide 3. And here's our zoom that we had earlier. I'm going to get rid of the zoom, and I'm going to, on this slide actually, I can get rid of slide 1 completely. That was just to show how to use the zoom. So on this slide, I can insert a sun, and I'll change it to yellow because that's the color of the sun. And I will go to insert, and right next to zoom we have link. When you hover over it, it says create a link in your document for quick access to web pages and files. Hyperlinks can also take you to places in your document. So that's the part that we're going to utilize. So we're going to click on link, we're going to click insert link, place in this document, then you can see all the slides. So we have slide 1, and then even though it's slide number 2, because I put a title, I put slide 3, that is the slide that we're going to do. You could do next slide, first slide, last slide, but if you add anything through as you're working on this, that could change. So I would suggest always putting the name of the slide for the link rather than first, last, next. But now when I put that there, when we look at this as a slideshow. It comes in, it turns, it does all the things we wanted it to do, right answer, wrong answer. But if I click the sun, it brings me to a new slide. So I didn't have to go back and forth or anything like that. And that is a really helpful feature for us to use, because the next feature is a good way to make sure that the game's not ruined. So the first time that I used Pixel Puzzle with my students, they ruined the game because they somehow clicked and it brought us right to slide 4, and they could see their picture and it ruined the whole thing. But there is a feature that works really well once you know how to do that inserting link to bring you from slide to slide, and that is actually up in, you might have seen me use it earlier, up in slideshow. And this is called the kiosk mode. And what kiosk mode does is you can't move from one slide to another just by clicking the mouse, clicking the arrows on your keyboard. You have to click the triggers. You have to click the shapes, the text box, the hyperlinks to bring you to other slides. So when you go to slideshow, you go to setup slideshow. And right now I have this as presented by a speaker full screen. That's what we see most of the time with PowerPoint. But we're going to pick browsed at a kiosk, and that's another full screen. Click OK. So what happens now that we're in kiosk mode? We're going to start the PowerPoint. Everything that we wanted to happen still going to happen. Wait 2 seconds. He rolls in, he spins, and if I click right answer, okay, there we go. A lot of things open on my computer right now and it's not liking all of that. So we're gonna wait. It doesn't want to work. So we're going to go, and I'll show an example of that using the pixel puzzle. Hopefully. We're gonna go in. I'm gonna close Pokemon and Battleship and just have these two open. So here is the pixel puzzle. If I go to setup slideshow, kiosk mode, now when I present it, I can click and click as much as I want. It's not going to change where I am on the screen until I find the section that's going to bring me the picture, the text box that's going to bring me there. And a good hint for that is your mouse will change to a hand when there's something to click. So it's very hidden here, so it's aesthetically pleasing, but there's a box right here at the very bottom that when I click on it, it will bring me to the next slide. And again, my students can't get excited and start just clicking before they read the directions, or if they come up and try and touch the smartboard, they have to find the magic spot. And it's at the same spot, it's the bottom, it's in white square that I put on top of the slide and added a link to the next slide. And it's really helpful because now when I'm clicking, when it's not in kiosk mode, if I just click like this, it would bring me straight to the next slide with no problem. And we don't want that because that's going to ruin all the magic of it and make the game over, because the point of this is that the kids have to answer questions to find their pictures. And if they can just click and it goes to it, it's no fun. So those are all of the basics of how to use features that come with PowerPoint in making a game. We're going to now transition into creating our own. I'm going to show you step by step how to make your own pixel puzzle that you could use in your classroom. So go ahead and get a PowerPoint open for you to follow along, and we will get started in just a moment. And we are back. So I have a new PowerPoint open, and we are going to get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is make your title slide. You can go back through and add it to fit a style that works for you. My classroom this year is sunflower themed, so I might want to go and look at pictures. I could do online photos, online pictures, and search sunflowers. We'll do sunflowers clip art. I don't want real I don't want real sunflowers. And there's a sunflower border that might look nice, so I could insert that, make it fit my slides. Maybe we won't do that right now because that doesn't want to cooperate. We'll try it again. Insert, I don't want shapes. Oh my goodness. Sunflower border. Nope, sunflower clip art. And this looks nice, nice cute border. I'll put that on there instead. Very small. Okay, that should help with some of the lag now that some of these PowerPoints that I've made are closed. They are awesome to use, but they do take a lot of work from the computer that you just have to make sure that when you're using it, any of these, it doesn't lag too much or it's not going to work well. So you can design yours however you want. My original one had a pixel design all over it and a different font, but make it work for you. The next thing you're going to do is add a new slide, and you'll want this new slide to be title and content. Your title is going to be directions, and you can come back to this and put the directions for how you want it to run in your classroom. As I said, I usually use it with a worksheet. So I have 24 students in my class. If there's a worksheet with 10 questions, then there's a total of 120 questions for the teams when the class is split in half, and that's more than enough questions, so some of them might not even finish their whole worksheet to be able to clear a board. But you could also do it the way that I've done Battleship, where there's 100 different questions for each team and they come up and take them. So you get to decide how you want to do that, and just make sure that you're clear with the directions when presenting it to your students or whoever you're going to use it with. Once you have your directions slide, you're going to insert a blank slide, and that's going to be the actual game board. So something that's really helpful as we get working with this, and there's going to be more slides, as I mentioned before when we were doing the zoom and the link, we want to be very clear of which slide we're going to zoom to or which slide the link is going to bring us to. So I like to, even though I want this to be a blank slide, I'm going to change my layout to title only, and I'm going to type in there game board. And that is going to make it so when I go to, if I wanted to on my first slide put a zoom and click slide zoom, it's going to be game board instead of just slide 3, because slide 3, what actually is on there might change. But I don't want game board to show, so I'm going to make the font white because my screen's white. If you change the color of your screen, obviously you would change the font to match that. You also could, if you added a background or something, like a picture as your background, go to, so I'll show you. I'll insert a picture. We'll do sunflowers again. I like sunflowers. Here's a beautiful sunflower field. Maybe I want this to be the back of if I want this to be my screen. Excuse me, the back of my game board. So you can go to Arrange and Selection Panel. And you can see there's Title 1 and Picture 3. So right now my title's above it. And there's not going to be really any color that I could use to hide that. I can simply drag it and put it's there, but it's under the picture. So when I go to insert or I go to link, it still says game board, even though game board's not there. So that's a trick for any kind of PowerPoint that you're making, even if it's not a game. If you're going to be inserting zooms or links, or you just want it more organized, you can always hide a title behind other things or by changing the color of it. But I'm going to delete the sunflowers because it's a little much on the eyes for all the stuff we're going to have for the game. So this is the game board, and then we are going to go to new slide and put another title only slide, and I'm going to call this one Team 1 Picture. And same thing, I'm going to make that white because I don't really need it to be seen. I just need it there for my brain as I'm setting up the game. So I'm going to now go to Insert, and I'm going to put a table, and it's going to be 11 by 11. But right now it's only letting me do 10 by 10. So I'll go add my 10 by 10, and then layout, we're going to do, oh, it's 10 by 8, not 10 by 10. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 across, and we still only have 8 down, so I'm going to insert 8, 9, 10, 11. Format this however you want. I usually just go to table design. I do like having the borders there, so I'll do all borders. I'll do shading, no fill, and then I'm going to make my table the entire slide. In the very first cell, we're not going to do anything, but when we go across, we're going to do 1. We got to change the color because this was the titles and it was a different color before, so we'll have to make sure that we can read this. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And format it however you want. I'm going to make mine in the middle and completely centered. And down along the side, again, leaving that first cell blank, we're going to put letters. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. And same thing, I'm going to highlight all of them and move it to the center, and I'm going to make it bold just so they match. And there's your board for the first team. And you could make more than two. For this, I'm only going to be showing you how to use two game boards. But if you wanted to do it, maybe you want to split your kids up into groups of 4 to do it, you could do that. You would just need to do what we're doing smaller on the screen. But here is our pixel 10 by 10 grid for team 1. We're just going to make it easy on ourselves, and we're going to copy or duplicate the slide. So right click on the slide, click duplicate, and now it's the same thing. But we do want to go in very quickly, and I'm going to move this because we want to change what this says. So I'm going to make it black for a minute so I can see it, and this is going to be team 2 picture. Change it back to the camouflage and put this back, because what we're going to do next is go to slide number 3, which is our game board, and we are going to insert a zoom slide for team 1 picture, and then we're going to insert a zoom slide for team 2's picture. They look the same, but you can tell that they're not, because if I go to T1 picture and I color this whole section, this whole first row yellow, it changes over here. So just so we can see a difference, we're going to have team 1 have a strip of yellow and team 2 be completely white for now. We're going to make them bigger. And we're going to insert a text box and just have them say team 1 and put that above the team 1. And we're going to I'm going to just make sure they're the same size. So the height of this one is 422 and the width is 6.2. So we're going to do the same thing for 22 and the width is 6.2. And that a little bigger. There we go. So now they're the same size. If you wanted to do more than 2 teams, you would keep doing the same thing. You'd copy and paste the slides, change the name to the different number teams, and you would just want to make these smaller. But your game board's going to have all of the teams playing boards on there. We have team 1 and team 2. Now we're only going to focus on team 1 for now, because if we do this right, we can just copy and paste everything we do over to the team 2 slide. So we are on our game board, and what we're going to do is go to insert. We're going to pick rectangle and make a rectangle. Again, all up to you, whatever your design, your aesthetic is how you're going to do it. But you want a rectangle that covers one cell and only one cell. So you might want to change the outline so it's a little thinner. And then once you have that, you're going to go to animation. You're going to click add effect. You're going to click disappear, trigger on the click of rectangle 10. And something I've learned as I've done this enough times is always test it. Because what we're going to do is, if this works, we're just going to copy and paste it instead of doing this over and over again for all 200 squares we need to cover. But the worst thing you can do is copy and paste it and then it not work. And now you have all 200 squares covered with something you don't want. So we're going to test it out. I'm going to click on it, and perfect, it disappears when I want it to. So I'm going to click on the rectangle, click on the rectangle, right click, and click copy. I'm going to paste it onto the next one. You want them to line up. You want it to look like the table. You don't want the borders to be thicker in spots and not, but you keep going with that. These guidelines are really helpful. As you can see them, they're lining them up, so it's hard to see. I can't zoom in anymore, but there's an orange dotted line that's showing me that the third rectangle I just placed is in line from on the top with the first two. So when I let go, they're all in line. Again, we want to make this easy on ourselves. These games are awesome to have and a lot cheaper to have than some other things you could use in the classroom, but you don't want it to take 3 days to make it. So if you press down, you click on one thing, press down Control, you can click on multiple, then right click and copy. Now it's going, when I paste, it's 3 squares at a time. So I can line up my 3 squares. And this is where we just have to make sure that we are doing the right lining things up, because if it's not lined up, it is ruining the game because you can see part of the picture, so they don't need to delete it to find their picture. So just make sure as you're lining it up, and you can always go back and fix it later, but make sure that as you're lining things up, it is covering everything, and if one square gets deleted, it's not going to reveal something from another square. So we're going to paste those 3 again and put them on the 7, 8, and 9 squares. And as you can see, again, this one's kind of out of line, so I'm going to just do each one individually. And there we go. And then we're just going to, I don't want that to move, copy and paste that last one. And there we go. In a matter of minutes, we were able to get the whole first row done because we just copied and pasted rather than trying to redo everything. And the beauty of copy and paste within PowerPoint is that it copy and pastes the animation. And you know that an object has animation when there's this little lightning bolt next to it. So the lightning bolt is on the left for each thing. So here, A1 has animation, A2 has animation, A3 has animation, but we can double check that it's going to do the animation we want. So if I click slideshow, and I'm going to click each one individually, and it looks good. Now we make it, again, easy on ourselves. We don't want this to take forever, or there's no point in doing this. We want it to be useful and not time consuming. So we're going to hold down the Control key. We're going to click all 10 squares. We're going to copy them, and we're going to paste them. And we have all 10. I pasted them twice. We don't want to paste them twice yet. And, oh my goodness, what did I do? Hold on. Let's try that again. Oh, I copied and then pasted just some of them. Go back. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Copy, paste, and now line it up with with row B. Do it again. Line it up with row C. Do it again. Line it up with row D. Line it up with row E. And keep doing that until you're all the way down to row J. H. And as you can see, we're going to have to go in and fix this a little bit because it's really, the line's much thicker between E and F than it is between C and D, but that is definitely something that's fixable. So we keep going, we're almost there. And again, those little lines are really helpful. It's starting to want to lag because there's a lot of things going on this screen. You just have to be patient if your computer does that as well, because if you don't, you could mess it up by clicking too much. So I'm finally on row J. Line it up, and when I go to present it, as you can see, there's some space here between E and F, so I'm going to definitely want to go back and fix that because it's showing a little bit of the picture, and that's ruining the fun of it. But I can test and make sure that every single one of these follows the animation we want it to. It should, because we copied from this 1A square. We tested when we did the row A, and we copied all of those and just pasted it, so it should do exactly what we want. So when I click, everyone that I click did exactly what I want it to. It deletes the square when you click on it. So now we again want to do it, make it as easy as possible. So we're going to go through and just fix some of the spacing. We know that E and F is some weird spacing, but one thing you can do is make the border bigger. So I'm actually going to just copy, I'm going to select all, and I could hold down the control and click on all 100 of them, but there's another trick. So if you go to shape format, you'll find selection panel, and these are all the rectangles that we pasted. But I'm going to go and I'm going to hide slide zoom 5. So do you see how it didn't delete it, but it's gone right now because I don't want to use that. So that's gone, and we can see that there's space. And then you can actually just draw a box over, and it selects everything. So I need to zoom out even more. Oops, that's zooming in. Zoom out even more. And now I've selected all of them. Much faster. I can go to shape format, and this is going to format all of them at once. And I'm going to make the weight of my squares 2.5, nah, 1.5. Looks good. We'll do 1.5, and I'm going to make my outline green, and I'm going to make my shape a little bit lighter than that green. And then I can look and see where it's fat or where it's not. And just to help with that, I'm going to go in. This is just kind of the making it pretty part. If we can do this and make it pretty, it'll be better for the aesthetic and the professionalism of this game. You may want to share it with people that you work with, or you may want to find a new thing. Maybe not pixel puzzle, but now that you know how to do this, making sure it's professional you could sell it on Teachers Pay Teachers. There's some site like that. So when I go to table design, I'm going to make my borders. I need my borders there, but I'm going to make them thicker. So my borders are nice and thick, and I'm just going to do stripes to make it easier to see that I have the coloring right. So we're just going to do yellow and blue stripes. We want to make sure that between each square that's going to be deleted, that you can't see color from the other squares. So I'm going to keep doing this. Again, making it look nice does take time, but it's important because you don't want it to be ruining the game before it works, or you're not going to be able to draw your kids in with the mystery of it. So I have that, and then I'm going to we'll do red every other square. And again, this will be the picture right now, but I'm going to show you once we're done how I usually find my pictures for this. I usually just go to Google and type in 10 by 10 pixel art and find pictures that are relevant to whatever we're doing that day. So now we're going to go back to our game board and we're going to click the eye next to zoom 5 again because we want it there. And right now it looks good. We can't see any of the colors on the board. But when we zoom in, you can see it's a lot thicker here and here. And when you look, when you look down, I don't want to go down to the next slide. When you look down at J, it goes past the square. So again, it's just fixing the aesthetic. So I have to look. Let's see. So when I move this square, you can see that G and so this is F1, but it doesn't. Some other squares cover it. So really what we want is a little bit of overlap so the border is covered. But usually what I do is actually here I don't want a border. So it really looks more like a picture. So when I do that, that looks good. But now we have to check. I'm going to put it back. But if I move E, that one still looks good because we're not seeing any color other than that yellow. And that's pretty much just making sure that when you delete it, it doesn't. When it disappears, I should say, you don't actually delete it. But when it disappears, it doesn't show anything but the one pixel that you want. So we're just going to go through and we know this one looked good. So we're just going to make sure that everything aligns with this. I can click alignment. I can do align. So if I do align left, it aligns everything all the way over there. But if I can align, so I can click on all of them, the whole column, and I'm going to do align to left. And it aligned all of them the same. So if I do that again, they're all in line. I'm actually going to move them up a tad, just like that, and that looks good. So we are going to click on, we got to do the same thing with the columns because now, I don't like that. It's all messed up, but that's okay. We want this to look good, so we're going to take our time to make it look good. And you definitely want a border with each of these because if you don't have a border on the squares, you might click on the wrong one by mistake. So now what I'm doing is just aligning it. Right there is not aligned, so I'm going to bring that up. Again, those squares are there, very helpful. We're just going to make it a tiny bit bigger. Go to shape format. We're going to make the height ever so bigger, and now it is aligned. So you keep doing that, keep working on that. It takes a long time. It's understandable, but it looks so nice when you can get it lined up. Like my other one, I did get it all lined up. So right there is a little fatter, so I probably could go in and do a little more work with this, but overall, this one looked pretty good. But we're going to move on from that. Take your time, make it as close to perfect as you can. And then when you are ready, you're going to do that same thing where you go to Arrange, Selection Panel, Hide Zoom 5, draw a box over all 100 of your squares, copy them, paste it, bring it over, and line it up with Team 2. And you may want to change the color for Team 1 versus Team 2. So maybe you'll want to do purple for Team 2. And you can absolutely do that. Again, still needs some fixing up right there, but overall looks pretty good. And we know from all the other ones that we did that our animations should work, but always go in and check. So now we have everything. All of these ones are deleting as we click. I don't have it in kiosk mode yet. That's why that happened. Click, 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 and click, 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 click. So now we have the basic game board made. You could put 1A, 1B, and almost make it more like Battleship. It is completely up to you. But the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I make my pixel arts for this. So for this one, the last time I used it, it was like springtime, kind of around Easter. So I had one team have a chick and one team have a bumblebee. But how I did that was I just went to Google and I typed in 10 by 10 pixel art, and I usually pick easy as it, but then you can find ones that are truly 10 by 10 and make your two choices based off of these. So here's a 10 by 10, but always check to see if it's actually 10 by 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this one's not actually 10 by 10, even though it says cute pixel art 10 by 10. But I could do easy 10 by 10 pixel art springtime. And might do a flower. sometimes they're hard to find, or sometimes you could make your own. So maybe grid flower pixel art would help. So you can look for pictures. It just takes a little time. Or you even could go to insert pictures, online picture. And it doesn't even have to truly be pixels. You could have it just reveal a picture. So I might do cute puppy clip art and some cute little puppies show up. So maybe I want this dog, so I'm going to insert that. And just have to make it so it fits the grid. And then when you go and they start to play, it starts revealing the picture. So as you get more comfortable with this, there's so much that you can do and so many different games you can create. And I think that this is a really great way for teachers who want to create more of a game-based environment in their classroom, game-based learning, all of that, to be able to do it without spending a ton of money. There are some great options out there that are free, but there are a lot that cost money. Sometimes your school district will get a school subscription, but sometimes not. But this is something that, as long as you have a computer that does PowerPoint, you can do this. And it is really fun. It's fun, I think personally, for me to create them. It's awesome when I've been trying and trying. I get a vision in my head and think about how I can make it, get on my computer, and to figure it out. It feels so awesome, makes me feel like I'm so good at technology. But there's no problem with Googling. If that would be one of my pieces of advice. If you're doing something like this, Google is your friend. Do not be afraid to go to Google and ask Google, how can I make this happen on PowerPoint? Even try ChatGPT. They're starting to people have made ChatGPT to be able to help with that type of stuff too. So you could use it to ask, what animations do I need to do to make this happen? There are some extra things that can be downloaded. They're called like extensions for PowerPoint. There's one, I didn't include it in this, but when I was student teaching, I created a Mario Party geometry review, and I had to add something. I made it on my laptop, and I had to add an extension that allowed me to press plus signs and minus signs to add or take away points or coins or stars like in real Mario Party. And that was something just by googling I was able to figure out that I couldn't do on the basic PowerPoint that I had. But googling is your friend. Use Google to help you. Don't get discouraged if you can't figure it out. Sometimes you just have to think outside the box or talk to other people. My last piece of advice would be to test it out. Try it out with every step that you do. Go and do that Google, not that Google, go and test it out. Put it in PowerPoint, put it in slideshow mode, or if you need to put it in the kiosk mode for that, but try it. The last thing you want to do is, as I said when we were working on this, copy and paste 200 rectangles only to find that they're not doing what you want them to do because you messed up the animation on the very first one that you copied and pasted 200 times. So my two pieces of advice to leave with you are Google is your friend. Don't be afraid to use it. And test, test, test. Test it out all the time. Thank you so much for joining me in my live stream of how to power up your PowerPoint. I hope that you learned something today, and I hope that you let your creativity run wild as you start to create PowerPoint